Hi, welcome to the Subversive Knit podcast. This is the first episode. My name is Anna Marie, and I watched a lot of knitting podcasts, and I am really interested in like the practice of making textiles as well as the history of textile production. And so I love making stuff. I love hearing people talk about making stuff. I like getting excited about being creative, and also like learning about, wool and things like that. The name of this podcast is actually inspired by a book, and the book isn't about knitting, which is what primarily this podcast will be about, but that's okay. And that's the subversive stitch, embroidery, and the making of the feminine by Rosishka Parker. It's quite like a famous feminist art history book, or just like textile work book. And yeah, I really like the name. I've full disclosure, I've only read a chunk of it, but I thought if I waited until I finished it, then I wouldn't start this for ages, and I wanted to start this podcast. So yeah, this basically is like a book about uncovering the fact that there were many women textile artists, embroiderers, and so forth, working in guilds, and they've just been erased, mostly by the Victorians, but also just generally through the tide of patriarchal history. So yeah, I guess I kind of thought it might be a nice idea to start by talking a bit about myself, so you have a sense of my style and what I'm going to be knitting and what I do knit. So yeah, I'm also not very good at speaking in one go, but I am also going to try and not edit these as much because I think they might be a bit long, so I hope you bear with me with all my pauses and my stuttering and my umming and ahhing. So I've been knitting for quite a long time, I guess. I did learn at school, maybe when I was 8 or something, but I didn't really do much knitting except from scarves then, and then I had this very long time, I would say maybe 10 years of me not knitting, and it's only in the past 3 or so years that I've picked it up again and really taken it seriously. So I think in 2020, maybe 2019, but 2020 I think was when I knitted my first pair of socks, which is something I'd wanted to do for ages, and it all kind of snowballed. And I also do know how to crochet, and I was crocheting, and one of the things that kind of brought me through into knitting more was actually that I crocheted this big blanket, and it gave me a lot of confidence, and I really enjoyed it, and it kind of just encouraged me to keep going with making things and crafts and stuff. So yeah, that's sort of my journey. I definitely feel maybe an advanced beginner or something if I were to place myself, just because I the choices I make about following patterns or not aren't necessarily that great. I still manage to make things, and I've definitely got past the stage where I'm just completely free falling, that's what I wanted to say, and don't really know what's going on. Generally I do have a sense of what a pattern is asking me to do, for example, but I still don't feel super confident, and partially I think it's also because I knit through the wrong loop, but I'm not changing how I knit, so and obviously I still can knit, I still produce things that work, and I produce things that work with the patterns and are the pattern. It's just occasionally that there might be an issue for me because of that. I also am allergic to wool. I'm not entirely sure what. I just know when I was a kid, trying to wear woolen things was really bad for me. But I definitely think there are kinds of wools that work better for me. One of them is actually merino, which most people will know, because even if you're allergic to wool, most people can wear merino. But that does mean that I'm generally also trying not to knit from just wool. Although I have gotten more into and more confident that I will be able to wear woolen things, in part because I knitted some mittens that I will talk about later, that are made of wool and that I can wear. And I think I did soften them once or something, and I could definitely do it again maybe, but anyway, I'll talk about that when I get to it. Yeah, like my sense of style is quite like eclectic, but I would say it's also pretty feminine. I don't wear any trousers, I just wear skirts and dresses, and I'm like a femme lesbian, which obviously impacts my style and what I want to wear. I also do like pretty bright colours, although I think I have been like mellowing kind of more recently. I did actually kind of want this to be a bit more yellow when I knitted it, so I wouldn't say it's particularly representative of the colours that I wear, like the types of colours, but you know, that's fine. My favourite colour is like pink and red. I love the colour red, but I actually don't have that many clothes that are red, which I think I should remedy. I also do know how to sew, and that is something that I did way more, like which I learned as a teenager, I think, like a young teenager, and then I did quite a lot of sewing, and then I also had a kind of break from it, but way less than 10 years, as with knitting, and then I returned to it. But I you know, have been living not really with my own sewing machine and stuff like that for a while, so I also don't do it as like a regular practice in the way that I would like, but also just isn't feasible or possible right now. What else do I want to say about myself? Obviously also like wool and yarn and things like that can all be like prohibitively expensive, and I'm definitely always kind of working on trying to pick cheap options that also do still work for like me and my skin, because also I do get hot really easily, and I don't really like knitting with acrylic. So yeah, I say this and I have just bought like a bunch of yarn, but that's okay, my student loans came in. And another key thing about like my knitting practice is that I am disabled and I have chronic pain, and my pain affects me basically everywhere. But I do obviously, I mean, most people who knit for fairly long stretches of time obviously do get pain in their hands, or like their hands ache, but I do just get pain in my hands anyway, like whatever I do sometimes. So that is something that I have to like kind of navigate, I guess, as I'm knitting. And also I as a result that I try to avoid patterns where you purl a lot, because purling it makes it worse, you know, it gives me way more pain. So I'm always kind of trying to knit things in the round, for example, rather than knit them flat and then seam them. Not because like I don't like the seaming part, like I think that's nice, I like it, but it's just better for me and my hands, and it means I can knit for longer periods of time, and I can make more progress, and I can feel better about it, and I can just not like encourage my pain. So yeah, but that is also like something sometimes I have to deal with. Like sometimes it just means I can't knit, which obviously sucks, but sometimes you have to listen to your body. And then sometimes I do just choose to knit anyway because it's giving me joy, and like I'm gonna be in pain anyway, so I may as well choose the thing that's giving me joy. But you know, they're like sometimes difficult decisions to make, I guess. I'm also like getting much more interested in like vintage knitting, and you know, like Susan Crawford kind of vintage knitting. So that is something that like I will be hopefully exploring more here. And yeah, I would say I'm not really like a colour work person yet, because I think also the tightness of knitting colour work is probably not great for my hands, but I also just haven't done very much of it, so I don't feel particularly like confident about doing it. But I do actually have like one project at least that is a colour work thing that I'm gonna try and do soonish. I think what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna show you some things that I've knitted that I really love recently, and maybe also talk you through kind of in the past year or so what I've knit, and that way we can be kind of caught up. And then I'll talk about my works in progress, and also then some of my plans, and maybe also some of the yarns that I would like to work with soon. So the first garment I made is very cliched, and is what everybody seems to make at least once, but that's a ranunculus, and it's, you know, not been treated very well. That is the other thing, that because I have like chronic fatigue and stuff, I don't like necessarily you know, care for my woolen or like, I guess most of these aren't woolen actually, but like my yarn creations particularly well, so they do end up looking a bit raggedy. But you know, I just don't really have like the spoons to always like hand wash things, and sometimes I just have to choose like the easiest and also the most gentle like machine wash that I can find. But yes, this is my ranunculus. I did definitely knit it like pretty big, but I also it is also obviously stretch quite a lot, or like maybe not a lot, but like, well, the neck does seem pretty massive. But yeah, and it was my first garment, and I was like really happy, and I was like really happy it fit, and I was so worried that it wouldn't, which is also why I kind of just like went for the big size. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I definitely know that I made a bunch of mistakes in the yoke, but I think overall it looks pretty uniform. In fact, holding it up like that looks very nice. And I'm pretty sure also I knit it on a larger size of needles. That's also like a pattern you'll find with me, is that I knit things not to gauge, or like I try to, like, partially because I'm fat, so I have to sometimes like just do a bigger gauge so that I can fit the pattern, because there isn't like a larger size, or I'm right on the cusp or something. And also because of my hand pain, like definitely knitting like smaller needles makes it worse. Not like massively, and I definitely feel like part of it is actually I just feel like kind of overwhelmed by projects that are like really small needles, thin yarn and stuff, which will just take for ages, because I don't know, I feel like you have to have a lot of staying power maybe to commit to those, or like I feel like, you know, I'm a slow knitter, so it's going to take me a while. But anyway, so that's one thing. The next thing that I made, or yeah, maybe not the next thing, but one of the other things I made is this gorgeous Capulet blouse by Fable Knitwear. Oh, I'll leave all of the information about like the patterns and things that I mentioned in this video in the description box. So yeah, and I made this out of Malabrigo's Rio. Oh, I made this out of, I think it's called papyrus. I just got given like 2 cotton yarn, like cakes of it, for Christmas from my family, because I just like knew that I was wanting yarn, and yeah, and it just about fit 1 and a bit, I think, or maybe it was 2. I think that's right, actually. I think I just knit 2 of them into this, and it just about worked. But yeah, so I used this. It has these like gorgeous sleeves. I wish I kind of had made them actually a bit bigger, because I think I was worried about not having enough yarn, because this yarn is like not cheap, or at least for me, like it's a lot of money, but I think it's really nice, and I'm glad how it turned out. I do wish I had made it a bit longer, like in the torso, I guess, like before the cabling ends, because it is just a bit short, but it's lovely. So I am still pretty happy with how it came out. I'm waiting for it to be cold enough for me to wear it, because I get very hot. I think I said that already, but like so that stopped me from wearing it. I also have these mittens that are like just my faves, and again I'm like waiting for it to be cold enough for me to wear, and these were actually a test knit, and I've knitted this pattern many times now since, for various people, and it's I think it's called the Plicatum mitts. But yeah, and this is knit with merino skewer 4-ply wool yarn, and also a baby alpaca yarn as well, and I really like the colour, and so this is like the wool, and on my hands it's generally okay. Like it definitely was kind of a bit scratchy to begin with, but it wasn't like super like irritating, which I guess is the key thing, like whether something's just a bit uncomfortable versus actually making me, you know, react to it in like a more severe way, I guess. And so yeah, no, these just about work, and I'm pretty sure I did soak them in some conditioner to try and get it to just be a bit more soft. And yeah, I think I did knit longer in both directions, but I'm just really happy with how they came out. I really like wearing them in the winter time, and yeah, I think they're really pretty. So onto the stuff that I've knit this year. There's a couple things that are not here because of like I moved recently, slash I sort of am in the process of still moving, I guess, really, but one of them was like a shawl that I made, which was kind of inspired by the Hawthorn tincture shawl by the Crimson Stitchery, which is like a podcast and a designer that I really like, and yes, so I don't have that, but I didn't make the whole shawl. I actually made it out of like November Woods Fibre Company yarn, who's also a podcast person and also a like a yarn business, an indie dyer, and I won this like giveaway, which has never really happened to me before ever. And so I had this like one skein, I think it was like a DK weight, in this like really nice autumnally like sort of orangey and yellowy combo, and I wanted to make something with that. And I also kind of wanted a shawl for like a little costume I put together for Purim, which was dressing up as like a Fiddler on the Roof character. And so I knit this like small shawl using the Wholesome Tincture pattern, or like the first chunk of the pattern. I also made some more plicatum mitts, both for one friend in like a pink variation in Yorkshire, West Yorkshire Spinners, like that yarn. I can't remember, but I will again leave everything in the description box. And then I also made some plicatum mitts with some 4-ply from Marie Escua again, and also a kid silk mohair from Drops that were blue for one of my friends. And so yeah, I also don't have those because I sent them off too. Then some stuff that I made with this like linen cotton woolly knit cone that I got in a great sale where I basically paid like £10 for 500 grams. So I made this little like headkerchief, babushka. Yeah, I think it's really nice and cute. It's a bit like, you know, worse for wear, I guess, because like I said, I'm not very careful and I have just been moving, so it's all been like scrunched up. But yeah, I just had some like holes in it. I made it up and just like knitted it. And then I also made like, instead of headkerchiefs, but like neckerchiefs, that's the word, for my friend and also her dog. So I have some pictures of them wearing them together, looking very cute. And I also did put the one that I made for Lotta, her dog, on her as like so that we could also match, you know, when I look like this. So I will also show you that picture because I think they're adorable and they look great. And as you know, you can probably tell because the yarn is exactly the same, I also knit this out of that same yarn, and that's also what I next knit. Or like, I think I knit this and then I knit this, and then I also knit the stuff for Mari and Lotta, our dog. Yeah, this is the Star Time dressy top. It's from the Susan Crawford A Stitch in Time volume 2, and I do have that book and I am excited to knit more from it. It's obviously like in the book it is like a kind of, it's like made out of like a silk, and it's also more of like a like a dressy top, and I kind of made it out of this linen. I'll insert some video of me wearing it, but like I made it out of this linen so that like, and so it kind of looks a bit less dressed up, it's more casual, which is fine, that's sort of what I wanted. And it has this nice stitch pattern which is like really simple and really easy to do, but I think it looks really nice. And then finally, the most recent thing that I have finished is this James N. Watts, which is like everywhere, but that's fine. James N. Watts, like look at my holes, summery top, which I will also insert some footage of me wearing. It's made out of just a cotton yarn, the King Cole Crush is what I think it's called. It's a DK weight, and I also found this just like mystery fluffy purple yarn. Like my friend's mum gave me a bunch of her yarn sort of that she didn't use or had finished up using, and one of these things was that particular yarn. So I was like, well, I need to make a project where I can use it, and I thought it kind of matched perfectly with I think, is it like rhododendron that the colorway is called? But anyway, one of the colorways I had, and so I was like, I should definitely try to use it for that. I didn't have enough for the whole thing, which I do think is a bit of a shame, but I think it works like this, just as like a fun little highlight. And then I used another color to end on the sleeves and also then the rest of the body. And I just think it works really well. I'm really happy with how it came out, and I'm excited to wear it more. In terms of what I'm currently knitting, I'm currently knitting a bub bonnet with horns. So it's a pattern by Lydia Morrow, I want to say, what Lydia did, and I really like her patterns and her style. I'm currently knitting the I-cord edging on the back of the bonnet. I think then I will need to block it in some capacity. I'm not quite sure how I'll do that yet, but yeah, for the shape, so it's a bit more defined. And then I just need to sew on the horns and then it will be done. So I'm really excited to have that done. I'm gonna wear it during October. My idea is that it will be ready by October, because I'm doing like a kind of, I don't know, documenting like my style, or like a style challenge, because one of my friends passed away a year ago, a bit over a year ago now, but and they loved like Halloween and spooky season and all sorts of things, like vampires and stuff like that. And one of my other friends was like, oh, I did this like October dressing challenge, and I just thought it was like a lovely idea, so I'm gonna try and do that too. Maybe not every single day, but just like to make some like very intentional outfits. And I wanted to knit the bub bonnet as something that I could wear for that. And I have a couple other plans for it too, but I haven't like knit anything else. I also have some works in progress that like I haven't made much progress on for a while for various reasons, but partially it's because they weren't with me, and one of them I need to wait until I'm with my mum because it's for her. But I was knitting this like chicken for her because she has chickens, and it was going to be for her like as a present for her birthday, which is in summer. But then for various logistical reasons I didn't finish it, and like whatever, so I still have the wings to do, which is also what the stitch markers are for. And I think I also have the like crown, whatever that's called, because it isn't this the wattle, and then I can't remember anyway. So yeah, but I think it looks fun. You are supposed to get like legs, which I'm not sure if I will. My mom's favourite colour is purple too, that's why I did it this colour. But it is also made out of like a whole bunch of like odds and ends of like acrylic yarn, and I've run out of the light grey that I was using, and now I only have this dark grey for the wings, but I will combine it with this Drops Kid Silk that I bought for something else. I think I did buy it for those mittens that I knit my friend Ferga, but then I changed, my mum went with the blue version. And I also have this, which is like it is like a kid silky kind of thing, but it's like a blend. There's definitely like acrylic and maybe some polyamide in it too. And I got this because like I thought I was running out of the blue for the mittens, and I did just, but like I only had to do like maybe the thumb or something with this. So, but yeah, anyway, so I've been holding like these together in various combinations throughout, and so the wings are gonna all be dark, but with maybe speckles of blue and white. So yeah, there's that work in progress. The other work in progress also for my mum is another Capulet blouse in exactly the same yarn, like exactly the same color, like literally everything. And yeah, I got this far, but basically I can't really go any further without like her being here and me being able to like try it on her to see that it fits. So I just kind of have to wait until we're together again. But yeah, I've got a bunch of yarn for that. She paid for the yarn and she's not paying me to knit it, but like yeah, that's how we decided to do it. So I haven't paid for any of the yarn, but because like if she were to pay me like hourly, obviously like it would just be a ludicrous amount of money. So instead the yarn, which feels very expensive to me, she paid for. And it's like kind of a present, but like it wasn't, you know, I wasn't supposed to be done for her birthday or anything. Like the chicken was like the thing that I was making more for her. I also have one other like work in progress that I haven't made a lot of progress on for a while. It has been with me, it's just because I haven't really been in the mood. I think part of it is I got kind of a bit mittened out, but these are going to be Nagu Selbu, hopefully. These really gorgeous Scandinavian mittens, and the pattern is taken from like someone's grandmother's like old pair, and I love that so much. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to knit it. It's made with something that like, this is another thing that like somebody gave me because they just had like didn't want it anymore, didn't use it anymore. But I think it's maybe an alpaca, and this is more merino skewer full ply, which it seems like I have a lot of, but I guess like partially because I did the test knit, I got really interested in her yarns, and I really like her podcast too. I think there's even more of it to show you. But yeah, so there's this, and I think like I probably won't knit it for a while, but like maybe December, January, I'll like feel my way back to knitting it, because it would be really nice to make. So yeah, and then in terms of like plans, I have some plans to make a reindeer knits, oh no, I've forgotten what the name of the pattern is, but like a pair of colourwork socks. I think there's something beginning with S maybe, and yeah, these are the colours that it shows, or it's just two colours. The two reds are the same, it's just the light is hitting them slightly different. And yeah, this is the contrast colour, and this is going to be the main colour, and I think it's a nice combo. Like, I did find it a bit hard. I definitely find it kind of hard to figure out what looks good together, partially because like I think most things look good together, but then it seems like that's not the case. And like people disagree with me. So yeah, I also have some Regia sock yarn that I'm gonna knit into a sock, I guess. I've kind of been trying to figure out like what else I could knit it into, but I think I just have to accept there's going to be socks, and like that's fine. But yeah, I'll be really interested to see how I respond to this, because it has 75% wool and 25% polyamide. So yeah, we'll see if my feet can handle it, but I think they should be able to. This is also, I didn't tell you what this is, sorry. This is sisu from Sandnes Garn, which is a Norwegian yarn, and it's 80% wool and 20% nylon. I also have this, which I've had for longer than the others, and it's another merino skua, but this is the baby alpaca, which is called Kaya baby alpaca, and it's in, does it say the colour? Yes, the colour Eos, which I really like. And I'm going to knit some merino skua mittens, but not the same pattern as these ones, like a different pattern that is written specifically for this like thinner yarn. So I'm excited to do that. I've been, you know, that was my plan when I got this like maybe a year ago now, but I was like all mittened out, like I said, so I've been waiting until like, you know, it's the winter time again, so then I'll get to it. So I might start these like November or something. I'll start doing that. I also have like a plan to knit the Forest Berry skirt by Fable Knitwear, and I made this little swatch of the pattern because I was like trying to decide what you can't really see, and I made a swatch for it, yeah, because I was trying to decide what like needles, that's the word, I should use. So yeah, this yarn that I have that I did the swatch in is a Fable Knitwear yarn. It's called Ask, I think, and this is in like the Lothlorien, I want to say, shade. And I also have another one of that, which is the Spring Meadow colorway, and I think this is really gorgeous, but the problem is that it's just a lot of money, and like making a skirt is going to be a lot of yarn, and it's obviously like a long-term project, because I feel like knitting a skirt is going to take me a long time, and I will probably need like quite a lot of breaks from it. But yeah, I need to decide what to knit it in, because it just seems like this is probably not the answer, and I'm not sure if I can like very nicely combine it with other yarn. So I do have a couple other like yarns that I was thinking I might try to swatch it with, including some West Yorkshire spinners, because that might be nice. And obviously I also don't want to be allergic to it. But this is okay, like it's a little bit prickly for me, or like, yeah, it's okay. But this, does it say here, is it's 100% Norwegian wool. The final thing that I haven't got a plan for yet, but I'm excited about, and I think is like such a gorgeous colour, is this Pickles Pure Wool yarn that is just like this gorgeous pinky colour, and yeah, I need to decide what to make with it. It's 380 meters per 100 grams. Yeah, it's just pure wool, so I probably wouldn't want to make socks with it, but we'll see. I mean, because part of me is like, do these go well together? But then I don't think they I just don't think they quite work. I could do some, okay, I think that is like a good combo. The problem is with the skirt, like I don't really want it to be stripy. I think it kind of does need to be like all one colour, or a colour that like it's made to fade into other colours maybe, you know, rather than like combining two different colour yarns. But I don't know, I might change how I feel. I feel like I've been talking for ages, but one thing I thought I would say is kind of talk about like the things that I'd like to learn, or like the things that I am learning. So like I do, not for every project, but I do like to pick patterns and projects and things where like I'm gonna learn at least one new thing. So for this James N. Watts, it was the particular stitch pattern that you do. I was really interested in like what that was to get this particular effect. And with like my Capulet blouse, I don't think I'd ever properly cabled anything before, so this was like the first time I did that. And I did also feel like, because the cabling is kind of different, but I guess like you see that with all cabling, right? These mittens were also kind of that, although I also hadn't ever made mittens before just in general, so that also felt like a new thing. And with the bub bonnet, like I'd never done a I-cord edging before, so you know, I'm definitely learning something new there. And yeah, I feel like I'm trying to be like chill about what I'm learning and not pick like really stressful projects or things that I just don't know at all how to do, but also gradually add to my skills and to my like understanding of knitting and how it's made up and things like that. I'm also really interested in like Marxist feminist fashion history and you know, how women have often been making these kinds of things and or like erased from the process, but also how I guess that's not entirely true, and it's just that like we have like feminized a lot of these crafts, but in a way that I think feels important to me as like a feminist, to feel like connected to this and to feel grounded in like fiber textile practices and working class history and things like that. You know, I love like learning about walking songs, and I was living in Scotland for a while and like learning about how tweed is made and things like that. So I'm, you know, learning loads of things, and I'm kind of trying to do it in a way that isn't like super overwhelming or makes me feel like I don't have any skills, but is also about like widening the skills that I do have. I hope that makes sense. I definitely might get back into crochet too, but I just haven't really felt like I wanted to, and I think a lot of the crochet like doesn't end up looking as good as knitting. I just end up being like, well, I wish this was knitting. But you know, maybe that's a bit snobby of me. I think that's everything that I have to say. I hope that this wasn't like too full of long pauses and things. Like I'm gonna maybe edit it a little bit, but hopefully not too much. I thought I might end reading a revolutionary letter by Diane de Primo, who is a poet from about the 60s or so, and I just find her poetry just so deeply inspiring and like so beautiful, and so much about nourishment and also anger too, about the world and the state of the world and making the world a better place. And I guess one of the reasons I want to end with reading it is because I do feel like some of the way that like people make and care for their clothes and learn how to make clothes all from the whole stage is maybe a part of like reclaiming some control over how you're in relationship with the exploitation that is like supposedly inherent in the system that we live in, but like doesn't have to be. We don't have to live like this, you know, it doesn't have to be this way, and it won't be this way. Capitalism is gonna end. So this is Revolutionary Letter 22. What do you want your kids to learn? Do you care if they know factoring, chemical formula, theory of numbers, equations, philosophy, semantics, symbolic logic, Latin, history, so-called, which is merely history of mind of Western man, least interesting of numberless manifestations on this planet? Do you care if he learns to eat off the woods, to set a broken arm, to mend his own clothes, cook simple food, deliver a calf or baby? If there are cars, should he not be able to keep his running? How will he learn these things? Will he learn them cut off in a plaster box, encased in a larger cement box called school, dealing with paper from morning till night, grinding no clay or mortar, no pigment, setting no seedlings in black earth come spring? How will he know to trap a rabbit, build a raft to navigate by stars, or find safe ground to sleep on? What is he doing all his learning years inside, as if the planet were no more than a vehicle for carrying our plastic constructs around the sun? Yeah, on that note, I will talk to you when I next you know, have some updates, have some finished objects. Yeah, Shana Tova!